invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Pastor Randy Cordell of the Lakeshore Christian Church. He is the guest of Council Member Robert Duvall.
Let's go to God together in prayer. Our Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus. We thank you for these men and women in this council chamber tonight. We thank you for those who represent the people and for the people who've come to give their input as well. We ask your blessings to be upon these proceedings and upon each person here and their families. We pray for our leaders that they would have a love for the truth and for what is right. We pray that they would have wisdom that comes only from you, that far exceeds our own. We pray that they would display courage and integrity as they lead and make decisions. We pray that they would be sharp in insight and quick in discernment, that they would test all things and hold firmly to that which is good and abstain from every form of evil, that they would surround themselves with good advisors and counselors, because blessed is the man who doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers. I pray that they would enjoy God's protection over themselves and their families, for there is no authority except from you, God, and all authority that exists is ordained by you. Bless us now in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of our minutes of January 4th? We have a motion and a second. Councilman Dominy.
I move that we include the roll call vote that was taken on the public hearing that was mentioned in the minutes, but they did not include the votes that were cast. I move that we include those in the minutes.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. No. Motion passes. Without any other objections, the minutes will stand approved. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, ma'am, there are not.
Thank you. Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. This evening, we are honored here at the council. There are not many issues that all of us always agree upon, but the issue before us tonight is one that I think we all do agree upon. It's our distinct honor to welcome Ray Barrett and his wife, Debbie, on the occasion of Ray's retirement after 52 years of dedicated service with Metro government. Ray worked 25 years, the last 25 years of his service in the Election Commission and the last 6 years as Administrator of Elections. Among his innovations were the installation of computers at all 112 precincts. Davidson County, Metro Nashville became the first in Tennessee to mail sample ballots to all of our citizens. And Ray also initiated ongoing updates of our voter registration rolls. Besides serving on many civic organizations and boards and leadership positions, Ray also rose to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, the National Guard, and served for 32 years. Ray Barrett epitomizes leadership, dedication, and professionalism. And Ray, we thank you for your service to Nashville. And he's awful shy, but we're going to make him say something anyway.
Thank each of you. You all helped us my time out there to have good elections, and we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
Here we go.
Oh, picture. Oh, good.
Agenda for elections and confirmations, Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Rules and Confirmations Committee met this afternoon and considered first the reappointment of Ms. Jane Alvis for the Arts Commission. The committee approved 9-4, none against, and I move her approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next was the reappointment of Ms. Jamie Wyatt for the Arts Commission, and the committee approved 10-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the appointment of Mr. Brian Taylor for the Beer Permit Board. The committee approved 9-4, none against, and I move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the appointment of Ms. Lorraine Segovia Paz for the Human Relations Commission. The committee approved 9-4, none against. I move her approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the appointment of Ms. Ashley Curry for the Solid Waste Regional Board. The committee approved 9-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the reappointment of Mr. Patrick Curran for the Work Release Commission. The committee approved 10-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And that concluded the committee's work.
Thank you, Councilman Adkins. When I call your name, please stand. Jane Alvis, Jamie Wyatt, Brian Taylor, Lorraine Segovia Paz, Ashley Curry, Patrick Curran III. On behalf of the Metro Council, thank you so much for your willingness to serve our city. We are now at bills on public hearing and second reading. The bill is BL 2010-820, amends the Metro Code to require the Board of Fair Commissioners to hold a state fair on the grounds property in 2011 to continue operating the Expo Center at the fairgrounds until a suitable location site has been identified, and to oversee the demolition of the existing racetrack facilities for use as a public park. Councilmember Moore.
Vice Mayor, I move to open the public hearing, please.
Okay. First, we will hear from those in support. If you are in support of 2010-820, please line up at the lectern. If you are in any of the overflow areas, please be making your way to the council chamber. I will ask each of you to state your name and your complete home address, please. I'll wait till everyone's in line before we begin. Councilman Claiborne?
Yes, ma'am. Could we get them to also include their zip code in their address?
We can certainly ask that. I'm sure that would be beneficial for district council people. I don't know if you all heard the request from Councilman Claiborne. He asked that you state your name and your complete address, including your zip code. Go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Betty Page. I live at 513 Southern Turf Drive, 37211, and it's just a few blocks from the fairgrounds. You can actually see the fairgrounds from my house and can definitely always hear the race cars. I would like to thank the council for allowing me to voice my opinion, because this process, I believe, it is the neighbors of this area that have not been heard. I have lived at 513 Southern Turf Drive for 52 years, share many of the same neighbors who all raised their families on my street and neighborhood. Most of these neighbors were not able to be here tonight as they are elderly due to their health and are limited in their activities. I have heard supporters of the racetrack and even the media report that the people who oppose the track are those who have just recently moved into the area, but that is not true. I am speaking on behalf of some of my older neighbors when I say we did not move into the noise in our neighborhood. The noise moved in on us. I can remember when they raced horses as well as horse-drawn harness races on the track, and I was fine with that. But when NASCAR started racing in the late 70s through the 80s, I had raised 2 sons, watched them move out and start their own families, and at that point I had been in my home on Southern Turf Drive over 20 years. Please understand, I have nothing against stock car racing. I can appreciate the sentiments behind these people's actions, but they don't have to deal with the noise of the track in their daily lives. And I am very confident that some of the wealthy people pushing to keep my neighborhood from finally moving forward would not want the noise I am forced to deal with in their backyard, keeping them from outdoor family gatherings and barbecues. I too am getting older and limited in my activities. I have 7 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren, and I really like it when they visit me. But from spring to fall, we can't do anything outside because of the noise. And it's not just Saturdays, because the race cars also practice during the week. It gets so loud on Saturday night that it is even hard to hear my TV indoors over the noise. I'm a widow and rely on Social Security for my income. I have thought of moving away many times because of the hardships the noise puts on me, but due to my age and income, moving away is no longer a choice I have. So when I heard that the mayor and others were proposing to do away with the racetrack and make something nice and pretty of the fairgrounds land, I was so excited. The thought of living the last years of my life moving my neighborhood forward, like many other areas of Nashville that needed attention have done, makes me very happy for what the future may look like.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Heidi Baskell. My husband and I live at 1711 Neal Terrace, zip code 37203. For a decade, we have lived 3 blocks from the fairgrounds and racetrack. Nashville is a thriving city with beautiful sights, great food, Grammy-winning music, and truly historic battlefields, forts, and homes of former U.S. presidents. The city would not be what it is today without forward thinking of past council city members making tough decisions, the kind that capture true city history and balance it with growth for the future. I implore you tonight, please pass the bill that will remove the racetrack and allow for a new park and possible redevelopment of the property. My husband and I love the flea market, fair, and the mix of events on the site, and we would love for them to stay. But if we cannot be given a choice that separates them from the track, then sadly, we want it all to go. Nashville continues to grow up around the track, but the track remains an eyesore, ear-sore, environmental pollutant, and infects thousands of homes, businesses, and most importantly is hindering city beautification and economic growth. It's not just about a few blocks that are close by. Local events have been poorly attended for decades now while creating noise that paralyzes the surrounding areas. But it's more than noise. At races, we've seen littering, drug use, and excessive drinking in the stands. The proposal to save the racetrack is not actually new and doesn't even allow for the fair to stay. Some of the updates are in the floodplain, so the question begs, unless they are planning on having boat races, why not put the millions they propose into the Nashville Super Speedway? It is newer, appropriately located, and it needs investment. I have been bullied, heckled, physically threatened at meetings, and recently neighbors in my area were picketed. Last night, Daryl Waltrip accessed my family's private cell phone number and called about the racetrack. Who gave my voter registration info to the politician hired by, or the lobbyist hired by the racetrack supporters? Tonight you will hear racetrack supporters say neighbors knew that the track knew it was there when they moved in. Well, which neighbors? Downtown, Melrose, Berry Hill, Wedgwood Houston, Belmont Waverly, the condos on Wedgwood at 8th, communities on the other side of Nolensville, businesses on Bransford. Why should any home or business in a 1.5-mile radius be held prisoner for the enjoyment of an incredibly small and decreasing few? It is true, I knew the track was there when I moved in, but I wasn't thinking about a track. I was thinking about a garden and a home I can afford and maybe renovate down the road so that my family can gather there. But I'm not standing before you today to ask you to demolish something as one person that chose to move near the track. I'm standing before you as a taxpayer who has high hopes for my county, my city, and my community. The needs of Nashville have changed. Please vote to remove the racetrack for good. Thank you for your time.
My
My name is Jean Bowles. I live at 622 Southgate, 37203. I've lived at 622 Southgate for 37 years. At that time, the racetrack was very active. Cars and trucks lined the streets, and the neighbors worried about ambulances and fire trucks getting through. Now, there's very little traffic, but the noise is still going. A few years ago, the racetrack people said they would build a noise barrier and put mufflers on the cars. The barrier did help a little bit, but they never put the mufflers on the car. The Metro school across the street kept a record of the children's behavior during the noisy time trials and gave it to the fair board, but the noise continued. I live in a great neighborhood, and when I'm told, if you don't like the noise, just move, it makes my blood boil. And I say to them, you haven't been a good neighbor, so you just move. Thank you.
Hi, members of the council. My name is Bill Perkins, and I live at 416 Humphrey Street, 37203. It's about 4 streets from the fairgrounds, and I've lived there 33 years. When SNAP got together recently to decide who was going to address which points to the council tonight, so that we all didn't go over the same points over and over and over again, which we thought you'd appreciate, I chose number 25, revitalization of neighborhood. Redevelopment will contribute to the ongoing revitalization of the Wedgwood-Houston neighborhood. Let me repeat that, ongoing revitalization of the Wedgwood-Houston neighborhood. I chose that topic because as a resident of the neighborhood for the past 33 years and having tackled many inner city neighborhood issues as a member of SNAP and the Wedgwood-Houston NSA, I thought I'd convey some of the earlier issues and struggles and success that contributed to our neighborhood's redevelopment. The first revitalization issue we needed the support of Metro Council on was getting our neighborhood designated a neighborhood strategy area. As you know, this designation brings with it federal monies to be spent in the improvement of a neighborhood. At that time, there was a really nasty and dangerous bar in the neighborhood called Tigers 2. Working with Metro Police and Codes and Vice, we were able to get the bar closed. No more fights, stabbings, and beer bottles thrown at us and other neighbors. SNAP then purchased the bar with the goal of turning it into a community center, which was a keystone project in our early revitalization plans. However, we needed the NSA funds to rehab the bar into a useful community center. We invited the entire council to come tour Tigers 2 and hear our plans to rehab. Most council members came and most voted to have our area designated an NSA. We did convert the building. It has been our neighborhood center for the past 30 years. The Wedgwood-Houston Citizen Advisory Committee allocated the remaining NSA funds to be spent on the installation of a playground at Fall Hamilton School. That was about $250,000, and a locks program to improve the safety of our elderly neighbors. The last of the funds were used to rehab a 1930s kindergarten in our neighborhood into 5 apartments for low and moderate income people. SNAP paid off the mortgage of the apartment last year. Each of these projects were a few more steps towards revitalization. Like all inner city neighborhoods at that time, Wedgwood-Houston had constant issues that needed dealt with and solved if the neighborhood was to be successfully redeveloped. To deal with abandoned houses, absentee landlord issues, alley trash, and vacant lot cleanup, we formed the SNAP Housing Committee to work with Metro Codes to help fix those problems. We worked with MDHA to get a few scattered site duplexes filled in. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Stanley Scrobot. I live on Humphrey Street for 31 years, which is a half a mile away from the racetrack. I oppose keeping the racetrack.
Could you please state your zip code?
37203.
Thank you.
Half a mile from the racetrack. As a property, I pay $4,700 worth of property taxes to Davidson County. The Fair Board reported income of $27,000 for the racetrack last year. I pay 17% of what the racetrack contributes to the coffers of Davidson County. In other words, myself and 6 other property owners with like-sized properties pay as much tax as the tract generates. I've invested over $300,000 in my property in the neighborhood, improving the looks as well as the value of my neighborhood. What has the racetrack contributed to my neighborhood? Noise pollution, air pollution, groundwater pollution, which, by the way, seeps into the adjacent Browns Creek and then into Metro's drinking water by way of the Cumberland River. I believe the racetrack is a property of a great asset to Davidson County and should be used to the best advantage for its citizens of the county and not for those out-of-county seasonal race drivers. I understand the flawed studies of the opponents to this bill say that the racetrack brings in $50 million a year to the city and the neighborhood. If that were true, where are the restaurants, hotels, motels, fast food chains, service stations, and other activities that this income would attract? In my 31 years next to the racetrack, I've seen no such development. The lack of development debunks the $50 million theory. Thank you, Council, for hearing me, and especially Sandra Moore for introducing this bill and her support for our city and especially our neighborhood.
Good evening. I'm Ann Tidwell. I've lived in Nashville all my life. I live at 306 Mountainside Drive in 37215. That's the southern part of Davidson County, in which there are no greenways. I want to thank all of you for your support of greenways and park and open space. You're doing a great, great job, and all of Nashville appreciates the job you're doing. And I'm here to plead for this to be, you've already voted, I know, to have a park and a greenway here. And I thank you very much. But I'm asking you to make it the best park and open space and green space that it can be. We're all interested in health. I can hardly get a place in my YMCA to run. It's crowded as can be. Our children are interested in their health. This neighborhood and for several miles around it have no place to run, to play, to exercise, and we need desperately to make this part of this site open space, greenway, playing fields, etc. I ask you to vote and consider your children, your children's children, the quality of life in Nashville, all of our health, clean water. Browns Creek is the only creek in Davidson County that does not have a foot of greenway on it. And this would provide a nice, at least a mile-long track, and if it can be connected downstream, it might go several miles, which would be a huge and wonderful addition to the city. I ask you to vote for clean air rather than fumes, trees, green space, clean water, healthy children, and a great quality of life. Thank you very much.
Hello, council people. Thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Ronnie Winsler. I live at 5909 Robert E. Lee Court in 37215. And I'm here to ask you to support the bill 2010-820. I am a commercial real estate developer, and I've been in the commercial real estate business here for 25 years. My partners and I bought a 100-year-old warehouse on the east side of I-65 at the Wedgwood exit about 2 years ago. Through the grace of God and through hard work, and because of the excellent location in an area that's sandwiched between Vanderbilt's investment down in Hundred Oaks and downtown, we were able to attract one of Nashville's premier growing companies, a company called Griffin Technology, which is totally homegrown here. They're the world leader in personal, mobile, and home electronics. anyway, they are moving into our building in about 2 weeks for their corporate headquarters here. You know, I'm neither for nor against racing. I am only here because the city has and is growing, and we have a lot of great things happening here, and we have a lot of great companies here, and we have to have places for them that offer the young people an urban environment and interesting places to work that are near town. Infill provides for less cost of transportation. It drives economic development, and it's good for our city in the long term. I hope you'll consider that as you vote. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Council. I am Wayne Russell. I live 6 blocks away from the Fairgrounds, area code 37203. In the almost 60 years I've lived in the Wedgwood, Houston neighborhood, the racetrack has been in existence. It was modified about 30 years ago, and since then, the track was placed in the floodplain by the Federal Emergency Management Association, which effectively halts all further building, even, I believe, the construction of any future sound abatement walls. NASCAR no longer races at the track, having deemed it inadequate, and recent track lessees have had to go begging for racers to come to our aged facility. This gives the racers the upper hand in dealing with the track and its managers, and gives Nashville the appearance of being needy. And I believe one of the reasons the fairgrounds operators have broken so many promises to the citizens of Nashville is they were afraid of the racers. Those who are speaking now for the track are indicating there might be a great deal of old oil from the past racetrack operation, possibly making the track a Superfund site. Almost any modification that may have been made to the track would now be blocked by the federal ordinance. No one speaking on either side of this issue talks of keeping the track as it is. Everyone knows something has to be done, but the options open at this site are severely limited by the track being in the floodplain. The site was well chosen for its original use as a horse track, but as a car racing facility, it has increasingly become an anachronism and needs to be demolished. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Ross. I'm here tonight representing the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce at 211 Commerce Street. However, I'm also a Davidson County resident at 911 Sutton Hill 37204. I'm here tonight in my role as a Vice President of Existing Business for the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Team. Thank you for the opportunity to give us the opportunity to support this bill. From an economic development perspective, having development-ready land is vital to our region's economic prosperity. When the Chamber is working with companies looking to relocate or expand in Nashville, the availability of real estate that fits their needs and culture of their company is a major part of that equation. What Davidson County is lacking is an inventory of zoned, desirable, 30-acre or more sites to attract these projects and jobs. We know that the past decade, 96% of top relocations and expansions in Middle Tennessee have gone to suburban campuses. You have before you, which was distributed before this meeting, a couple of maps by Metro Planning provided for you. One is 30-plus acre sites available in Davidson County currently, and the other is 75-plus. What you'll see in these maps is a clear lack of inventory of available land to attract corporate headquarters and give Nashville's existing companies room to expand. As you know, you can't land a project without somewhere to put them. When the company is searching for a 30-acre campus, Davidson County is often eliminated because they're not there. The more options the county has, the more likely we'll land those projects. In the case of the fairgrounds, the site is located 2 miles from the urban core of the city, along the I-65 corridor, making it extremely attractive to relocations and expansion projects. The last map you have, the third map, highlights the major office developments in Nashville area in the last 10 years. The majority of these have located along the I-65 corridor. And finally, I want to mention that the Chamber's research team examined one potential scenario of the fairgrounds site that would accommodate a mixed-use development that includes 1 million square feet of office space. This equates to 5 Cool Springs office buildings spread over 80 acres, leaving ample property for additional uses and amenities such as green space, housing, retail, and restaurants that this neighborhood needs. This scenario equates to 6,500 new jobs and an operational economic impact of $2.5 billion a year. The fairgrounds is a very attractive site to prospects because of its site and location. However, companies will not commit to moving forward on redeveloping on this site without moving through this political process necessary to begin development. The Chamber urges Metro Council to vote in favor of this bill, which begins redevelopment of this property. Thank you.
Let me get my peepers here. My name is Dee Dee. I live on Byram. I'm the resident there for 48 years. I'm the 3rd generation there, and I have children there and grandchildren in my same neighborhood.
Could you please give us your address and your zip code? I don't think you were in here when that request was made.
No, I wasn't. It was 2152 Byram Avenue, 37203.
Thank you.
I was going to speak on emissions and gas and oil spills, Browns Creek and the environmental issue, but I think I'm going to blow that away and maybe someone else will pick up on it. There are 2 reoccurring comments that I keep hearing, and I'm sure when I leave tonight it will be brought up, and it really bothers me to hear this, so I want to say that this needs to be addressed. The 2 comments are, you knew the track was there when you bought the house. You don't like it? Move. Well, I think that this comment is feeble-minded and weak. I think it's a very bad comment. We're talking about a public racetrack, and they want me to give up my private residence, my home. Whatever happens in my home, in my living room, people don't know about it. What I do in my house, they don't know about it. Peace and quiet is my choice. Where I live is my choice. It should be my choice. I don't think these people have any right to tell me I need to move, to give up somewhere where my home has been for 100 years. I believe that I have as much roots in this neighborhood as the track. And my decision is that I want to stay in my home. And I don't want them in my home. I do not want to be encroached upon by the racetrack anymore. It is not the same racetrack I grew up with, and I did grow up with it. My father was in the pit crew. I was in bed at night. And as for the sound barriers, I attended a racetrack meeting on a Tuesday morning some years back with a neighborhood community group, and we were asking for sound barriers or sound walls, trees, something to show a level of respect. I was told, no. It can't be done. If we could afford it, we can't afford it. It won't work. You're too high on a hill. You're going to get the noise whether you want it or not. We have a grandfather clause here. We can be as loud as we want to be. I'm sorry. And they said they weren't going to change their mufflers. It slowed down their racing. So if it couldn't have been controlled then, how can it be controlled now? Now, if you ask me, do I want the fairgrounds to go away?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My name is Adrian Day. I live at 2152 Byram Avenue, zip code 37203. I was given this shirt this evening to wear. I opted not to wear it. And I didn't wear it not because I'm not in solidarity with the good folks that gave it to me, because they're my neighbors and they're my community members. I wore it because I don't want you to associate me with a group or lose sight of the fact that I'm just Joe taxpayer. I'm a guy out there earning a living. I live on top of the hill, and I'm the man with the most to lose from the decisions made here tonight. You heard my wife talk about the noise level on the hill. The details you haven't heard are the fact that when racing is in season, which is lengthy and long, there are no cookouts in our backyard.
There are no conversations in our backyard. Two people can't hear each other talk in my front yard. You can raise your television to top volume at 10 o'clock at night and hear the races above it. I called my councilman at 1 o'clock in the morning one weekend to share with him the good news that the race was still in session. I wanted to share with him the joy of living on the front lines of what other people do for their guilty pleasures. I'm here tonight to plead with you to consider the fact that the neighborhood has outgrown the racetrack. It does not serve the community well. It's not the direction that the community is going. I've heard a lot of noise about the fact that it's historical. Well, it's not any more historical than Fair Park was, and when that became a money loser, we said goodbye to that as well. As far as historical goes, as my wife pointed out, we're three generations, actually four, because her son lives within our home, 4 generations on the hill. You were racing horses when we settled there. If you want to go historical, go back to horse racing. I could live with it. But all I ask is to enjoy the same thing that each of you enjoy. You work hard during the week, you pay your property taxes, you go home and you enjoy the peace and sanctity of your home. I don't. Because my home is a dumping ground for the noise from the racetrack. You know, we talk a lot today about ecosystems and consideration for our environment. A lot of people have forgotten about noise pollution. I get it. Every day there's a racetrack in session, and I'm tired of it.
Hello, my name is Kim Brooks. I live at 32 Moore Ave, 37210. I've lived in Davidson County all my life, and I've owned a business across the street from the Tennessee State Fairgrounds for the last 16 years. I have a retail store called Finer Things Gallery. It's at 1898 Nolensville Road. My husband also owns a business in that neighborhood and has been there for 26 years. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. At the beginning of the recession, our 2 businesses employed 11 people. Today, we're down to 4. I mention this because the redevelopment of the fairgrounds and the demolition of the racetrack as a first step of that redevelopment is key to increasing opportunities in South Nashville. Our community is in desperate need of revitalization. Based on an estimate of 72 major racetracks in the U.S., the distance to the nearest metro center is an average of 39 miles. In Nashville, it's 2 miles from the city center. The neighborhood that surrounds the racetrack was a rural area. It made sense when it was put there 100 years ago. The noise that's created makes it impossible to enjoy our neighborhood and conduct our business. On a personal note, about a dozen years ago, my sister decided to get married in our sculpture garden. As a wedding gift, we prepared the garden, rented a tent, chairs, all that. And on a beautiful Saturday spring day, we realized we had made a huge mistake. We were outside preparing the garden when the races started, and we weren't able to hear each other talk, much less the minister officiate the ceremony. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, I appreciate this evening. My name is Joel Hill. My residence is 1805 Laurel Ridge Drive. Zip is 37215. I bring a unique perspective to this cause. I grew up in Berry Hill as a child at 2730 Larman Drive. I have a business located in Berry Hill. It's actually 2 blocks from the Speedway. It's at 2617 Grissom Drive. My business has been in Berry Hill for the last 25 years. I employ 50 people. I desire and plead with you to consider the redevelopment of the area. If I can give an example of redevelopment that's very, very close, right down Bransford Avenue. If you take the Hundred Oaks Mall, that was really a dying mall, and when Vanderbilt Medical Center went and revitalized that property, it brought restaurants, retail, banking, taxes, people, and at night, There's a great amount of life on that end of Bransford Avenue. You come right down Bransford that drops down to the fairgrounds where my office is, and at night it is an absolute ghost town. Now I'm going to share with y'all, growing up in Berry Hill, and that's where I didn't have a choice. That's where my parents lived when I was born. As soon as you could get enough money to get out of there, you would, and it was because of the noise. It wasn't because we didn't like racing. I personally like racing, but you could not live in that community. And subsequently, there's very little residential that's in that area. And in commercial in that end of Bransford, there is no life at the fairgrounds at 4:30 in the afternoon unless the speedway's going. So I beseech you to consider doing and making the hard decision. There are a lot of people here tonight, and I actually applaud them for showing up to express their passion. But I have talked to the number of people that live and work in the Hundred Oaks, Berry Hill Fairgrounds area, and I wish we could do a show of hands of people that live and work in that area. They would not want the noise. Appreciate your time.
Council members and Vice Mayor, my name is Colby Sledge, and my wife and I live at 614 Moore Avenue, 37203, where we purchased a home nearly a year ago. I wanted to make sure the council understands that I do indeed have a mortgage payment, contrary to the belief of some, and I promise I'd like to believe the same thing around the first of every month. My wife and I decided to buy our home in Wedgwood, Houston because we wanted to be close to the communities we felt called to serve. We moved in knowing little about the history of Wedgwood, Houston, and we had not heard much about the fairgrounds beyond the fact that it was the racetrack's final season that summer. We figured it wouldn't be much of an issue. It was only during the first race of the season that we realized how loud the track is, even at our house, which actually sits at the opposite end of the neighborhood from the fairgrounds. We live near Greer Stadium, where they shoot off weekend fireworks. We live near a waste disposal service, and one of the train tracks that encircles our neighborhood and cuts off our neighborhood really from all other services and communities is right near our house as well. None of these facilities produce the kind of high-pitched, constant noise that comes from the racetrack on racing evenings. But as I began to discover, this issue reaches beyond the nearly decade-long fight that even the racetrack supporters will admit has been decidedly one-sided. As I began to talk to members of our community, I found that this issue is just the latest in what has been a long and constant fight for recognition, support, and survival. I will let the people who've been through those fights tell their stories, because I imagine I'll find myself in their shoes soon enough. I urge the council to listen closely to those residents that have worked for decades for this neighborhood. As for me, I wish to speak to what I hope will be a brighter future for Wedgwood, Houston, regardless of the actions that the council takes tonight. This debate has maybe shed a little light on who we are as a neighborhood. We are in many ways much like other neighborhoods that you could find in your district. I wake up every morning to the Motown hits that my neighbor plays at levels that quite possibly rival that of the race cars. My other neighbor serves as part of the trifecta of veteran street watchers under whose guise no unnoticed act occurs. Our community includes several houses of faith with an even greater variety of those who practice and those who don't practice at all. But I assure you that we have a common faith in our community. It is likely that it's the same sort of faith you have in your districts, in your neighborhoods, and in your communities. And so as there, I ask you to remain for a moment to think upon the faith and trust that you have in your neighbors and your neighborhoods, and the faith and trust that they've put in you as elected officials. Think about the burden you bear to fight for the areas you represent, regardless of whether it's popular or well received. And then please realize that the same sense of service, faith, and trust that you feel toward your neighborhoods is the same service, faith, and trust that we ask you to show our neighborhoods tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate the Vice Mayor and Council hearing us this evening. I am Chris Rimke. I live on 834 Kendall Drive at 37209. More importantly, I work about a stone's throw from the fairgrounds. At least I could throw that far when I was about 20. We are here in support of Council Bill 820. You know, I have reported to work here every day since 1991. And we have watched great energy pick up all the way around us, except in the area of the fairgrounds. And I think that many of you here who I know have worked to promote successful businesses and development that improves, the human condition for the residents in our area and the jobs that we have. And I really appreciate the fact that you've done that. The city and the state worked very hard at it. The chamber was here tonight and they spoke to it. We are not against racing. We're not against a fair. We just believe that those things have been outgrown here. The things we are for is the potential, that we think there's sleeping potential in this site because it's surrounded by interstates, great developments, downtown, the new convention center, 100 Oaks, Berry Hill, Melrose, 12th Avenue, all these things. Could this be a Grassmere, a Metro Center? These are developments that we encourage. I have, for this city, worked on economic development teams who were selling from an empty wagon. We need some sites in Nashville. It is not infrequent that some of those sites will go outside of the perimeter counties. We are asking that this be considered. As a neighbor, I'm asking that this energy go beyond just the limits of the fairground, but we really consider the entire area because it's ready for a little love and appreciation and some energy that government can throw into things. So we appreciate all you do for the development of our county. Appreciate you taking time to hear us tonight, and I thank you very much.
Good evening, honorable council members. My name is John Hendricks. I've been in the neighborhood for 40 years on Neil Terrace. I moved there in the month of February, and the realty guy that sold me the house, he didn't tell me about the racetrack because it was winter time and I didn't ask. I didn't do my homework on that. But ever since then, the first race, there has been problems with the noise. The high school was there, it's gone. The Fair Park was there, it's gone. The swimming pool, it's gone. The roller coaster, it's gone. But the noise from the racetrack is still there. You can't entertain your company in your backyard, on your patio for the noise. You go in the house, you can't raise the windows. You lower the windows, you can still hear it. You have to turn your TV up louder than normal while you can hear it when the race is going on. I've been to several races. Know a lot of the race drivers, seen, talk to them. That's Sterling said nowhere. Know him. Know a lot of them. Fluky Buford, all them. Charlie Binkley, I know his name. Red Farmer, I've seen them all race down there. Good guys at the heart, I'm pretty sure. But the noise is what we have to deal with. They come in, stay 3-4 hours, they gone. I'm there 24/7. My job as a minister had me away a lot, which I didn't hear all the noise all the time. But now I am retired, settled and everything, Maybe it's the age, but whatever it is, it's the noise there. I can hear this, see. The family, the kids. I like for my grandkids to grow up in a safe environment. But as the cars are there, racing, dropping oil, polluting the grounds and the river, what's going to happen later on in life? Maybe they have kids, maybe they be deformed according to all this pollution. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to bring? But I'm in support of this bill to remove this racetrack for the noise purpose. They're not, in my opinion, doing too much for the neighborhood there other than coming, doing their thing, and leaving. But we are still there. They go back to their neighborhood, they're fine, but we cleaning up after them. They come up through there after a race. You can't cross the streets or anything.
Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry to take so much time. But
Just your time's up.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Sellers, and my husband and I live on Martin Street, which is about 4/10 of a mile from the racetrack.
Could you state your zip code, please?
37203.
Thank you.
From our own experience, the noise pollution from the racetrack harms the value of homes and the quality of life in the surrounding area. The noise generated by the racetrack is loud enough, as you've heard, to ruin many barbecues, disturb sleep, and it cannot be escaped, even inside with all of our windows and doors shut. Supporters of the racetrack, we've heard, they argue that we should not have chosen to live near a racetrack if we didn't want to deal with the noise pollution. However, we chose to live in this neighborhood because it is a convenient, affordable, and family-friendly area. In the 5 years that we've lived in the Wedgwood-Houston neighborhood, racetrack officials assured us numerous times that they were working to abate the noise levels. But these promises have not come to fruition, and the disturbance continues to affect not only those that live in our community, but also residents in Berry Hill, 12 South, and other neighborhoods. So this is not simply a Wedgwood-Houston issue. This impacts many neighborhoods in the Nashville metropolitan area. The Nashville Civic Design Center did a study, the Wedgwood-Houston Neighborhood Study, and they stated that the urban site, meaning the racetrack, is not appropriate for car racing because of the loud noise, which impedes neighborhood quality of life. Long-term plans should relocate the racetrack outside of residential areas. We've also heard supporters of the racetrack claim that placement of additional vegetation could be considered a noise deterrent. However, according to the Federal Highway Administration, in order to obtain just a 5 decibel noise reduction, the vegetation has to be a minimum of 100 feet thick, 20 feet high, and so dense that it cannot be seen through. Clearly, the plan put forth by the racetrack supporters does not provide enough vegetation to adequately reduce these noise levels. And I ask you, Council, I know you have a really difficult decision to make, but we just think about what gives people the right to do something that is so detrimental to the surrounding area when we live there, like the guy before me said, 24 hours a day. And I just want you guys to think about how you would feel if you lived this close, where the noise kept your family up at night as races droned on well past 10 p.m. And would you want your children to have trouble sleeping because of the noise? My husband and I are certainly not against racing or racetracks. We simply feel that the racetrack is inappropriately placed, and it's unfair for a small number of people to subject thousands of residents in the surrounding neighborhoods to this level of noise pollution. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Members of the Metro Council, my name is Natasha Ross, and I currently live at 940 Gale Lane, zip code 37204. In addition, I own 2 businesses, one at 2206 8th Avenue South, 37204, and one at 300 10th Avenue South, 37203. The businesses together employ 11 people currently, and we're growing. The businesses, one is 1.1 miles from the fairground, and the other is just over 2 miles. I live 1.5 miles away from the fairgrounds. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to express my support for the bill. And I want to mention that redevelopment is truly the key to economic growth in our community. We cannot have a nice mixed-use development if the racetrack is still there. And while I have no problem with racing, from a personal standpoint, property values are very important to me, obviously, as I own property there, but additionally, as I'm in a position where I'm looking to purchase business property, commercial property. And that's obviously one of my priorities. From a business standpoint, we celebrated the grand opening of our second location today at Cummins Station, 300A 10th Avenue South. We want to continue to celebrate grand openings of locations and businesses. And one of the ways that we see that we're able to do this is to have mixed-use developments and continuing to see economic development in the area. So I support the economic development that has been set forth. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Metro Council. My name is Erica Lanier, and I too reside on Neal Terrace. My mother has resided there since 1985, and I made the decision a year ago to purchase a home and return back to that neighborhood.
Could you please state your zip code?
37203, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
As I drive through the city, I see billboards and signs stretching from Antioch to West Nashville. meaning no disrespect, this is an issue for the residents of the 37203 area, and more specifically, the residents who are directly impacted by this issue. Please consider not only the noise issue, but how your decision will affect our property values, how any modifications will affect our taxes, and how any modifications or lack of will affect our quality of life. Please take into consideration this decision is not just about the adults in that area, but equally important, the children who presently have to travel to William Coleman Park on Thompson Lane to ride their bikes or swing. Long after the adult residents have relocated, the decisions you make tonight and going forward will decide what the future taxpayers, our children, do with their homes. My daughter is the heir to 2 properties you are making decisions about. Your decisions will either keep her as a proud resident of 37203 or cause her to have 2 properties that, at best, will become rental properties while she resides somewhere else. I simply ask you to vote as you would if you were deciding for your children. Minus celebrity, minus bias, minus nostalgia. Decide what is best for your South Nashville daughters and sons. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Chapman, and I live on Rosedale Avenue in Berry Hill, 37211, just 2 streets south of the fairground. I've been joined tonight by several members of my community, the Row at Berry Hill. We stand here before you tonight, strong supporters of the fairground bill that has been sponsored by so many of you good council members. First, I would like to thank each and every council member for their time and effort that they give to the citizens of Nashville. I would especially like to thank Council Lady Moore for her tireless effort to improve her district and the quality of life for the citizens of District 17. Opponents of the bill would have you believe that the vast majority of residents surrounding the fairgrounds property support keeping the racetrack open, but that is simply not the case. Of all the residents of Berry Hill that I have spoken with on this matter, I have only spoken to one that has been pro-racetrack. Yes, I, along with my neighbors, bought houses and moved into the area knowing that there's a racetrack there and that the noise coincides with racing. But that does not mean that the noise is the only concern that we have as neighbors regarding the track. I do appreciate the pro-racetrack support's efforts in hearing the neighbors' complaints about that noise with their new design concept of what to do with the fairgrounds property. But frankly, as the name suggests, Berry Hill sits on a hill, and that hill overlooks the racetrack, and a 14-foot sound barrier and mufflers are not going to contain the souped-up noise that rumbles out of that not only during the weekends, but also during the week while qualifying is taking place. As I drive by the fairgrounds property every day, and especially the racetrack, I see something that is out of place with the neighborhood. Berry Hill is an area full of small businesses and residents who appreciate the positive growth and development that we have experienced with Vanderbilt's coming to 100 Oaks. This has brought new businesses and residents to the area that have meshed well with the existing style and culture of the area. You, the council, have an opportunity tonight to not only help further invigorate this process in Berry Hill, but also all the South Nashville neighborhoods by bringing a better and more appropriate use of the land than is currently the racetrack. I'm not one to advocate change simply for change's sake, but this is an opportunity for you, the Metro Council, to positively redefine a large area of Nashville, not just the fairgrounds itself, and cement a lasting legacy of growth that you have brought to the city. Please join your fellow council members, Moore, Berry, Ryman, Page, Stein, Toller, Forkham, Hunt, and Lalonde in support of this bill, and by doing so, enhance the growth and development of the South Nashville area in a manner that is more compatible with the existing neighborhoods surrounding the fairgrounds property. This is the hope and the wish of the neighbors of the fairgrounds. Thank you.
My name is Sean Bells. I live at 3716 West End Avenue. It's 37205. I'm president and CEO of FMBC Investments. We're a real estate development group having a track record in the neighboring Chestnut Hill area. We have won 3 historic preservation awards for saving dilapidated Victorians, and we're also doing new development in this revitalization district, approximately about a mile away from this. In addition to this, I can tell you that I personally used to live near the fairgrounds in Woodland and Waverly on the opposite side of I-65, so I think I'm well versed to talk in both a professional manner and also in a personal manner tonight. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to express my support for Bill 2010-820, and I urge you as council members here tonight to take the emotion out of this bill and vote as the duly elected stewards of Nashville taxpayers. And if you do that and you look deep inside and don't go with the emotional heartstrings of whatever the opposition is saying, you'll look at what's best for Nashville and see that you have a tremendous asset here that's ripe for development. And the fairgrounds represent a great economic opportunity for Nashville. And that is what's so great about Nashville and how we've grown as a city over the last 10 to 15 years, where other cities have been stagnant. Grisham Smith and Partners, along with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, Research Development, has provided a development schematic, which is just one possibility. This site is a mixed use with Class A office space of approximately 1 million square feet in the core of this city, creating the opportunity for the creation and or attraction of 6,500 jobs and $200 million of capital investment in Davidson County, based on an average of $200 of investment per square foot. Business operations that could result from developing that property have the potential to generate an overall economic impact of $2.5 billion. This economic opportunity can be great not only for the neighborhood, but as a whole for the city of Nashville. If you take no action here tonight, there will be a tremendous cost associated with that. As any good business person or steward of the money of the taxpayers, you have to look at this in a sunken cost analysis. If you had a blank sheet of paper and you didn't have a racetrack, you didn't have the fairgrounds, you didn't have anything there, and you had a multitude of opportunities, would you vote tonight to put a racetrack in there, given all the other opportunities that you have? And if you can answer, then you can go home with your head high. But I think that you will answer the right thing that's right for Nashville.
Hi, I am Susan Heffernan, Neal Terrace, 37203. I've lived in my neighborhood a little over 10 years. I first rented an apartment on Carvel and then bought my backyard neighbor's house about 5 years ago on Neal Terrace, and I'm 3 blocks away from the fairgrounds. I belong to the SNAP and Wedgwood Houston group. We have been going to what seems like a zillion meetings in our own group, community meetings, and fair board meetings, to attempt compromises with the racetrack promoters. And we have been promised for years now various noise reduction possibilities, including some kind of new mufflers, to which we said, we'll try that, but nothing of that nature was accomplished. In other words, they did not one thing to help us. At this point, I would like to see the racetrack go. I am for keeping the flea market and expos and the state fair, all of which I attend, and perhaps refurbishing the existing buildings. A lick of paint can go a long way. We might even gain the attention of Hands on Nashville or a local youth group to help us out with this project. We could create a mixed-use property, adding some local retail shops, which would generate employment opportunities. An actual grocery store is severely needed in this area. Some of my neighbors don't have cars and end up using the 2 neighborhood convenience stores with little or no produce available for their daily subsistence. We also have a natural equestrian center there. Remember the starving horses? We did not shoot them. We nourished as many as possible back to health. Since I can't have a chicken in my backyard, maybe I could have a horse stabled at the new equestrian center. I also signed that Save My Fairgrounds petition a long time ago, not knowing that they wanted that racetrack included, and that was in probably June or July. So I do have a yellow shirt on. Anyway, thank you very much for that consideration. Have a good night, everybody.
My name is Laura Flaherty. I live on Wingrove Street, 37203. My house is approximately 426 yards from the Fairgrounds racetrack. When my husband and I decided that we were ready to embark on the adventure of homeownership a few years ago, a resident introduced us to the Wedgwood-Houston neighborhood. Minutes from my job downtown and my husband's job at Vanderbilt University, as well as the Gulch, 12 South, Hillsborough Village, Green Hills, and a quick hop over the river to East Nashville, it was exactly where we wanted to be. To top it all off, we had heard the buzz that the end of racing was near and the development was on the horizon for the current fairgrounds and racetrack property. The price was right, the location was perfect, and the potential was there. Since we moved in a year and a half ago, we've had so much fun working on our home and making it our own. We've met neighbors and made great friends. We are invested financially and emotionally in this neighborhood. And yet, according to some racetrack supporters, because I bought my home 100 years too late, my voice shouldn't be considered when discussing the future of my own neighborhood. My neighbors and I have been bullied, insulted, and intimidated. On social website pages, blogs, and comments of newspaper articles, we have been told over and over again that our voice doesn't matter. We're told to quit crying or move. I am told that because I wanted to live within the 440 Briley Parkway loop and couldn't afford East Nashville or Germantown, that I shouldn't be listened to when I wish for progress in my neighborhood. Though I am, like many others, a transplant to Nashville, I certainly understand nostalgia, and I can definitely respect the history of this great city that I have come to love as my own. However, I don't believe that any structure, policy, or tradition should be kept in place for no other reason than nostalgia's sake, and at the cost of change for the better. This property has unlimited potential. I am beyond thrilled that Council has already approved a 40-acre park in the floodplain. When the racetrack comes down, Browns Creek will then be able to be restored to its original beauty before it was diverted to accommodate the racetrack. Ground and water pollutants can be cleaned up to make way for future development. Mixed-use retail and restaurants to dine and shop in would greatly enhance the quality of life for residents of Wedgwood-Houston and surrounding neighborhoods. I'll wrap up tonight by telling a quick story about one of my neighbors. Cindy Self couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to speak on her behalf. Cindy has a young autistic grandson named Graham. According to the American Speech Language Hearing Association, one of the most commonly reported challenges for people with autism is hypersensitivity to sound, and it is commonly believed to be a permanent symptom of autism that must be accommodated throughout the life of the individual. Cindy and Graham live on my street, and when the race cars run, when he has his worst autistic episodes. According to some racers, they would ask him why he was born into a family who lives so close to the racetrack. Since the racetrack was there first, the noise is their problem, isn't it?
Good evening. My name is Chris Farrell. I live at 700 Prescott Court. I teach at Trevecca Nazarene University. I teach biology and the environment. We do all of our laboratories out in the creek and in
State your zip code.
37204.
Thank you.
Okay. We do our work actually in the creek and in trying to improve the area. 3 times since 2003, we've used students, our students and some of Vanderbilt's students, to remove over 10 tons of trash from Browns Creek, to haul it away with 3 big city dumpsters. Wish we could do it every year. We've almost made this into an annual thing to use the entire freshman class for removing trash and garbage from Browns Creek. Now, that would tell you that the state reports that say all 3.3 miles of Browns Creek are heavily contaminated, and we really do need to do something to solve this problem. And actually, the amount of traffic and trash and fuels, oils that contaminate it really seem almost hopeless. Except we have actually spotted 6 different species of fish in there, including on the fairgrounds. And at times we find snapping turtles and a few kingfishers. So it gives us hope that something can happen, even though we don't have any kind of funding or help. I think actually the situation, if you just read the state report, it's really intolerable. And the sad thing is, it's right here in the capital city. Did you notice that? This is the capital city. And if you follow Browns Creek around under Franklin Road, you'll find that one branch of it comes right from Governor Haslam's mansion. And Browns Creek literally starts with Governor Haslam's front yard and his driveway. We need this to actually be the best practices that are available in the state. We ought to be showing off what the best practices can yield, because we're trying to plan for a greener, a better, a brighter tomorrow. And there's lots of reasons to think that really is financially effective and politically passable. If you don't believe it, come to listen to Hunter Lovins at Lipscomb's Green Business Summit. This woman has made a study of hundreds of industries that have more than quadrupled their profitability by looking seriously at these green practices. Thank you.
My name is Faye Gotten, and I live at 3518 Hewlett Drive, which is near Wright Middle School, zip code 37211. I lived in the fairgrounds area for 14 years and still have family there. I think we should remove the racetrack, or we will stop progress with development, growth, and improvement. I think the people that love the memory of the racetrack will never be ready to let it go. They are holding on to a memory that stops progress. Most people do not like change, but to make the community more valuable, we have to have change. Thank you.
Alice Walker, 37209, President of the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors. The Greater Nashville Association of Realtors is in support of Bill 2010-820 for fairgrounds redevelopment. As the voice of real estate in Middle Tennessee, we understand the importance of job creation, economic development, and livable neighborhoods. The Fairground Development Project has the potential to make several positive impacts on Davidson County. There's no need to recite that list here. You have it in written form, and it's been discussed thoroughly in the last few weeks. Mayor Dean and the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce have done an excellent job of making the case that we have a resource that can be used in a meaningful way to make the central core of this region attractive to major companies. That, in our view, is key to keeping the entire region successful. The points that made the Maytown project less desirable are largely answered in the redevelopment of the fairground represents. Your positive vote for Bill 2010-820 will benefit Davidson County in numerous ways. So your support of this matter is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tiffany Tung, and I live at 1801 Stewart Place, Nashville, Tennessee, 37203. I'm in Councilwoman Sandra Moore's district. Obviously, noise pollution is a serious concern, and it's most detrimental to those of us that live in the Fairgrounds, Berry Hill, Nolensville, and 12 South neighborhoods. And while I live about 3 blocks from the Fairgrounds, I wanted to note this isn't just a not in my backyard issue. This is something that affects a large portion of the city. This is really about improving the lives, health, and the economic opportunities for the entire city of Nashville. I see this as one of these really significant moments when city leaders have an opportunity to transform the city landscape and improve the quality of life for thousands and thousands of people. Currently, as you know, the racetrack property sits as a mostly empty spot of asphalt. If you've gone through there, you see it's asphalt, broken glass, and a lot of trash. I know this because I've done neighborhood cleanups with my community, with the SNAP community. It's a group of citizens that just get together and clean up the neighborhood because we love and we care about our neighborhood. Currently, the spot where the racetrack is a bit of a shame and a bit of an eyesore, and I think it reflects really poorly on our entire community. When the racetrack area, when it's not empty and when the race cars are there, either during race or practice runs, which they do a lot, it often occurs during school hours. I'm an educator, and as an educator, I don't understand how kids at Fall Hamilton can focus on their learning. If, as a city council member, you support public education, you should support this bill. Eliminating the racetrack is one of the most surefire ways that you can improve the educational environment for a large group of kids. You will hear others claim and make promises that they won't run races during school hours, but they practice during school hours, and the noise is very disturbing. These practices and races also interfere with any kind of after-school programs. I do a lot of educational outreach, and I take great pride in my community. I'd be delighted to work with other groups like SNAP and Harvest Hands to develop outreach programs and after-school programs, but it's exceedingly difficult to do so when you have that kind of noise pollution occurring in the neighborhood. Overall, the positive impact of removing the racetrack and creating a park would be immediate. In the longer term, it would start the process of much-needed revitalization. Redevelopment of the racetrack would also help improve the Nolensville corridor, an area that apparently has already been identified as need of revitalization. Removing the racetrack would pave the way for these other improvement projects and eventually lead to more job opportunities and a robust tax base for the county. Now, I've seen other communities come together in really creative and positive ways, either by building gardens for kids or churches and synagogues for neighborhoods or pedestrian-friendly walkways that can bring people together. I would like to see that similar kind of ambition and optimism put forward by the City Council. Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor, we have 23 more speakers. Just wanted to let you know.
Good evening, Council. My name is Clay Kotler. I live at 511 Southern Turf Drive, 37211. So it's about 1,200 feet from the racetrack's edge. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I have a few points to make. One of them is early last year, Tony Formosa stood right in this very spot and said he knows how loud racing is. And if you allowed him to hold races at the racetrack, he would make the neighbors happy. I want to make sure that everyone knows that he did not make the neighborhood happy. He ran without mufflers and he ran late into the night, clearly breaking the promise he made to you and to Nashville. Mr. Formosa and all the racers knew better and did it anyway. I think they all have some explaining to do. The next point is the last public hearing about the Hickory Hollow Mall, a man defended the racetrack underutilization by comparing it to the Titans field. He said the Titans field sits empty most of the year, and if it was somehow the same thing. Here's the difference. The Titans employ hundreds of high-paid, full-time employees that live, spend, and pay taxes in Davidson County. The track does not. And when the Titans have a game, they fill the stands with 40 to 60,000 people. The racetrack does not. There is no true comparison here. And there's some reason why there are no grocery stores, hotels, common retailers in this area considering how populated it is. If the racetrack brings so much money and people into the area, wouldn't there be a lot of business in the area? My guess is the racetrack keeps them away. And my last point is, it's not just the close neighbors that surround the fairgrounds that are affected by this. The racetrack sits in Nashville's core, South Nashville neighborhoods like Woodbine, Berry Hill, Creve Hall, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Belmead, Edge Hill, Wedgwood, Houston, Chestnut Hill, 12 South, Melrose, all can hear it clearly. Those areas encompass tens of thousands of residents. Major universities lie within these areas. The noise can be heard by David Lipscomb, Belmont, Trevecca, to name a few. Lots of the students live in these areas affected. I think that we have a responsibility to protect these businesses and residents from this nuisance. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will make the right choice for Nashville and vote to close this racetrack forever. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Brian Hicks. I live at 1077 2nd Avenue South, 37210. I lead a nonprofit as the executive director in our neighborhood called Harvest Hands. But more importantly, I live in the neighborhood. As well as the rest of our staff, we all live in the neighborhood. Part of our commitment is to listen to the voice of our neighbors. We believe that's a very important commitment as a nonprofit, to not just make decisions from the outside and then leave. And so we reside in the community. And over, as we've listened to our neighbors speak about what they hope for the future of our neighborhood, it does not include the racetrack. In fact, most of them say that they wish that the racetrack could be gone because it causes distraction at night. And in fact, if you ever try to go out and have a conversation and listen to your neighbors during this time, it's impossible. And so this is one of the things that I've heard from folks who've lived in the neighborhood for a while. So for me, it's not so much about the fact that I own a house there and want the value of my property to go up. In fact, I could care less about that. What I really care about is the voice of that community being heard. And so those who've been there, like Wayne, you heard me speak, I lived there 60 years, and like Tommy, who's been there over 20 years, when they say, you know what, the racetrack doesn't respect us, it doesn't care about what's going on, it hasn't listened in the past, and won't listen in the future, I believe it's my responsibility as a leader in the neighborhood to listen to that. I believe it's your responsibility as council people to listen to that as well. I believe we share that in common. The other thing that's important to me are the children of our neighborhood. We run after-school programs for the kids. And if you talk to our kids, what they really would like to have would be a park in the neighborhood, a place where they could go after school, a place where they could go and play ball and not have to worry about it, a place where they could hang out with their friends, a place that they could have sports leagues in their neighborhoods. And so for us, as a nonprofit that tries to work for wholeness in a community, when I hear that voice over and over again, and as a neighbor who tries to listen to my neighbors saying, we want what's best for this community, what you would want for your neighborhood, that's why I support it. That's why I support this bill. It's because I believe it is the best choice for a neighborhood that simply wants to be whole, that wants to be a good neighborhood, a place where people want to live, a better city to live, a better city to work, and a better city to play. And I hope that you all can make that happen. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, neighbors, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you on the other side of the podium. My name's Hunter G. I live at 713 Benson Street, 37206. As you know, I'm Vice Chair of the Planning Commission. I'm also President of the Nashville Civic Design Center Board of Directors. But tonight I speak to you as a citizen that thinks a lot about the future of our city. As you all know, we must find ways to continue to grow in order to increase our tax revenue and in turn to provide better services and a more attractive place to live, work, play, and visit. This is paramount to competing with other regions of the nation and to competing with our surrounding counties. In other words, we must intensify while improving our quality of life. As a planning commissioner, I've experienced, as you have, the valuable discussion and debate among citizens of our region about how we grow in the future. To me, it's simple. We either grow out or we grow up. The city of Nashville has limited opportunities to create new centers of commerce located centrally in our region in a more sustainable development pattern. We can do this at the fairgrounds on underutilized, already developed property, or we can choose to do it in the green fields in areas that we haven't developed previously. The fairgrounds offers a site that is already previously developed, that has roads, transit, utilities, interstate, and bridges. It offers opportunity to improve existing neighborhoods and 2 adjacent commercial corridors. The fairgrounds offers Nashville the opportunity to mend a gray field by providing more economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable development while repairing much of the natural landscape that was once there. I support this first step toward redevelopment of the fairgrounds into a mixed-use, sustainable development. It's time we grow up. Thank you for your time tonight.
Hello, my name's Don Safer. I live at 4517 Price Circle, 37205. I'm board chairman of the Tennessee Environmental Council. I'm here to speak as a citizen who loves Nashville, who's lived here many, many years, and as an environmentalist. And in a dog bites man's, or a man bites dog story, I'm here in favor of growth and development. It's smart development, and that's what it would be to vote for turning this property into a mixed-use development as has been planned. First step is certainly to vote tonight to close the racetrack. The private market, I'm also here as an environmentalist to talk about the market, and the market has spoken in terms of this property. If that property had been in private hands, it would have been sold many years ago and been developed long, long ago. It's been subsidized by the city, used for the purposes that it's been used, but without city intervention and government money, that would have been developed a long time ago. So I think when we talk about the market and making our government smaller, I think it's time to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, and let this property be used for its highest and best use. What was just said about urban infill is so true. I will not belabor that point. I will speak a little bit toward the pollution issues that the racetrack does cause. I think what we're talking about here, whether you like car racing or not, think the appropriateness of a car racing facility at that particular spot, its time has come and gone. It's no longer appropriate to have a car racing facility in the middle of our city. It's just simply creates, I think the biggest issue is the air pollution that it creates at the time of year when we have our high ozone days, at the time of year when our particulate matter is rising and people are being advised to stay inside. To have car races at that time is simply, to me, unthinkable. We're advising our citizens not to drive any more than possible, and yet you have a racetrack where people are going around in circles all day long. I realize it's a sport a lot of people love, and I honor that, but just not in the middle of our city anymore. So I encourage the council to take the opportunity to lead and to lead our city into a really positive step. I think the neighborhood around there will blossom without that blight on the neighborhood. So thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate the consideration you give to this issue.
Hello, my name is Mark Deutschman. I live in 37212, and I am the broker and the founder of Village Real Estate Services. I am on the board of Greenways for Nashville, and I serve on the board of the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors. I also serve as the chair of sustainability for the Urban Land Institute, and I've been working with Christine Lalonde and the Go Green District 18 campaign and some of the other campaigns that are developing here in the council to help create sustainable neighborhoods. I believe that the core is the new edge. I think that we, as a city, need to focus on the core and create important services for our core constituency. And I think that in that capacity, we need to have smart land use. We need to have appropriate reuse of this property. I would say that the council has already made a very good decision to commit funds to an urban park in this location. I don't believe that this park is compatible with the racetrack. I don't think that if we were to ask people who live near Percy Warner Park or McCabe Park if they wanted a racetrack, that they would accept that in their neighborhood at this time. The question is, will the park live to its full potential if we have the racetrack? I also believe that infill development is really necessary for our vibrant core, and I think that we should really get behind this bill and find a compatible use for this property and support the bill to shut down the racetrack. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Steve Warnke. I live on Stewart Place in 37203. And I speak as a neighbor. I live about 3 blocks from the fairgrounds, from the racetrack. Bought my first home there with my wife, and we plan to start our family there. We're invested in the neighborhood, invested in this community. We've participated in neighborhood cleanups, and just to give you an idea of what that entails, I mean, we at this point, the fairgrounds for us not only is not the fairgrounds, but especially the parking lot and the racetrack are not only not very inviting or useful for us as neighbors, but basically it's a place where we have to go and clean up and pick up dozens and dozens of bags of garbage about twice a year. So we organize these neighborhood cleanups. And just to give you an idea of the kinds of things that go on in that parking lot, I personally have picked up a 9mm semi-automatic pistol during one of these cleanups. And we had to call the police, and we had a crime scene in the middle of neighborhood cleanup. So just a little anecdote of that in terms of how that space is used, 80, 90% of the calendar year. The other 10%, it's used, in a way that is detrimental to the neighborhood, right? It's not only it's making the neighborhood not only less desirable, but it's making it less, habitable because of the things that are going on there. As has been said, it's very difficult for the kids at Fall Hamilton right next door when they're practicing during the day, even though we've been promised as a neighborhood multiple times that wouldn't happen, continues to happen. So, from just so many points of view, the urban planning aspect has been already mentioned, and that's, I don't understand what the alternative even is. Obviously this needs to be done. It's not sustainable as it is as a tax issue for the city. As I understand it, the racetrack produces something like $50,000 in taxes a year, and I just don't see that that's the most effective use. And obviously, if that's our tax base for our schools and so forth, that's what we need to obviously change how that's being used. So it's the right thing to do for the neighborhood. It's the right thing to do for the city in terms of an urban planning point of view, and it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. So I urge you to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
I'm Ken Winter, 1021 Paris Avenue, 37204. Vote yes for the Browns Creek renewal, 4th and 8th Avenue corridor development. Yes for 21st century state-of-the-art people's exhibition spaces, and yes for local economic development activity. Vote no for the racetrack, and vote no for corporate giveaways. 3 points that you won't hear to explain my position, and I won't detail any of these. One is crippling economic inequality. 1% of our people own 1/3 of our wealth. The next 9% add up to 70% of our national wealth. Number 2 is impotent manufacturing. We don't make anything. That's Warren Buffett. Until we do, our communities won't flourish. And number 3, I've been in this process for the fairgrounds for 5 years. The process stinks. I've seen my council lady assaulted in a public hearing. I've seen the 17th District Council Google group taken over by racetrack people and made into an anti-council person forum. That's it. Those are my 3 criteria for you making your decisions. Do what you will. Straighten out inequality, no corporate giveaways, get rid of the racetrack. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Hicks, and I live on 2nd Avenue South, 37210. This is within a mile of the fairgrounds and the racetrack. Tonight, I speak as a neighbor of the fairgrounds, as well as a representative of the children and youth that live in the neighborhoods surrounding the fairgrounds. My biggest issue is the noise pollution that the racetrack causes. Neighbors, we're not able to be outside because we can't hear each other talk when the race cars are going. My biggest issue is that the race cars run during school hours. As you all know, Fall Hamilton Enhanced Option School, which is our neighborhood elementary school, is right across the street from the racetrack. This interferes with our students' learning and their recreation time. Imagine trying to teach a first grade student who has attention deficit disorder how to read with the buzz of race cars in the background. It's just not possible. The racetrack has given our neighborhood a bunch of unmet promises. They've promised time and time again to restrict the running times of the race cars and to not run during school hours. These promises have not been met. I support demolishing the racetrack and creating a park and beautifying the fairgrounds. I believe in creating a place where the whole community can enjoy, a place that improves our neighborhood and our city, and a place that the children can enjoy, and that will enhance their learning and their recreation instead of destroy it. I'm in favor of this bill, and I hope you all will vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brenda Gadd, and I live at 2310 Knowles Avenue, Nashville, 37204. I'm here today as a neighbor of the fairgrounds and racetrack and someone committed to sound conservation principles. I ask your support for Council Bill 820 because I believe it represents the best of conservation principles. Sound conservation is necessary for healthy and vibrant communities and neighborhoods. I believe the legislation before you advances Nashville's goals of becoming the greenest city in the Southeast, even as we encourage sustainable long-term economic growth. There are three major conservation and community benefits for Nashville in passing this council bill. First, the removal of an automobile racetrack from the city's core enhances infill development, which drives economic growth throughout our city, and it avoids sprawl. Redevelopment of the fairgrounds property opens the door to green building practices that would stand in stark contrast to the current land use on the property. Second, parks and open spaces are essential to healthy neighborhoods. Funding is already set aside for the creation of a 40-acre park, which includes a greenway trail. This provides our neighbors an opportunity for recreation and relaxation. It also reduces water pollution by absorbing stormwater runoff. The neighborhoods adjacent to parks and open spaces will see an increase in the value of their properties, a phenomenon we have witnessed time and again throughout our city. Parks work in neighborhoods, not next to racetracks. Finally, Browns Creek has the potential to be a beautiful urban stream. Right now, however, this stream is choked with pollution and runoff from the racetrack. The redevelopment of the fairgrounds and the creation of new open space go hand in hand with the vitality of Browns Creek. Browns Creek will be a public asset again, with green space and water absorbing and water filtering vegetation in its floodplain. Further, removing the impervious hard surfaces on the racetrack site will mitigate future flood risk on the fairgrounds and racetrack site. As a voter and a member of the Nashville community supportive of conservation practices, I ask that you act to further the city's shared commitments to conservation and economic development. Please vote yes on Council Bill 820. Thank you for your commitment and your time tonight.
Hello, my name is Eric Malo. I live at 1701 Stewart Place, 37203. I'm the co-chairperson of SNAP, the South Nashville Action People, and but I come here and speak as a neighbor who lives within about a half a mile of the fairgrounds property. Nashville, like many other U.S. cities over the last century, has encouraged sprawl and development of rural areas at the detriment of the urban core and the environment. Now, as the city moves towards a greener future, it is time to curb this sprawl and begin a tradition of true smart growth. Tonight, the city has a huge opportunity, as well as a responsibility to its citizens, the environment, and its future. The fairgrounds property sits in disrepair and underutilized, fragmenting several diverse and vibrant neighborhoods just miles from downtown. Currently, the Nashville Civic Design Center and the Urban Land Institute are undertaking studies of the 8th Avenue and the 4th Avenue corridors to explore ways of improving transportation into and out of the city, as well as to increase business and residential densities in order to enhance the surrounding neighborhoods and create a more walkable and livable city. The fairgrounds property is pivotal in this plan to improve the city. A polluting racetrack can be demolished so that a neglected creek can be restored and improved as a park. 40 acres of reestablished floodplain will help to improve the area and prevent disasters such as we suffered in May from happening again in the future. Empty parking lots and derelict structures can be replaced with complete streets that support pedestrians and bicyclists, as well as public transportation, and higher density mixed-use buildings that support and connect these different neighborhoods with each other and with downtown. The flea market can be integrated into an urban outdoor plaza in a European manner, which will enhance the neighborhood and could even improve attendance. Ultimately, the heritage of the property and the city should be acknowledged and respected, but it cannot overshadow the needs of the city today, nor should it get in the way of proper progress for the future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donald Jenkins. I'm a resident at 540 Hamilton Avenue, Nashville 37203. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to share our concerns. I was made aware of an ordinance that kind of confirmed what I think a lot of people are saying is opinion, and it's ordinance number BL 2008-306. And it's motor vehicle noise. I'm just going to read it real short. It shall be unlawful for any person to operate any motor vehicle that is not equipped with a muffler in good working order and in constant operation to prevent excessive noise. Operate a motor vehicle equipped with cutout, bypass, or similar muffler elimination units to operate a motor vehicle with devices that amplify noise or motor vehicle exhaust noise. And then third, operate a motor vehicle and the exhaust noise is plainly audible at 200 feet. For purposes of this subsection, plainly audible means the detection of the sound of muffler or an exhaust by a person using his or her unaided faculties. I'm not saying this to say that the racetrack is in breach of this ordinance. I know they're grandfathered in. But I will say that if streetcar noise is annoying enough to have an ordinance, I can promise you a stock car is 4 to 5 times more annoying. And you can definitely hear it from a lot further than 200 feet. When I first moved to the neighborhood 3 years ago, though, I did go to the fairground track board meeting. I wanted to get the pulse on State of the Union, I guess you could call it. And during the minutes, they were announcing that they had just announced the 5th year in a row of net loss. And I'm not here to talk about finances. There's people a lot more qualified to do that than me. But what I did realize, in order for the racetrack to be more profitable, they were going to have more races. With more races, you got to have more practice and preparation time. I can tell you that while that will make the track profitable with money, and I know that sounds good, it will kill the neighborhood and kill the community. I just don't think that's the right way, and I've tried to look at both sides. I know there's some mufflers and some sound walls and stuff like that, but guys, I have a buddy that lives on his backyard faces the 440 interstate, and there's a sound barrier wall there, and I can tell you we don't have grill outs in his backyard because it's still too noisy, and that's with street cars. So it's just hard for me to believe that that can really be muffled. So when I moved to the area, I knew I was going to have to endure some weekends, with the noise and some nights. I knew that. But I never did think that I would have to sit here and really cross my fingers because the council was maybe having to extend the number of races that we were going to have. I never really thought that was going to happen. And I really think Nashville is growing and population is growing. But I do think if you increase the number of races and keep this, that people are going to be moving out. So I thank you for your time.
My name is Kirk Dahlgren. I live at 551 Moore Avenue, Nashville 37203, and I work on Wedgwood, a few blocks from the fairgrounds as well. Just wanted to say thank you, men and women of the council, for your time this evening. You have a great opportunity to continue to serve a significant number of people, much larger than the group that's currently being served by the racetrack. And I would argue that, as you know, you've heard from a lot of folks tonight, and you'll probably hear from maybe a few more this evening, but if you add up all the special interest groups gathered together, the number of people that would benefit from having a park that would be free and open to the public at any time would be exponentially greater than even the number of folks represented by any interest group here tonight. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Keith Moorman. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. My address is 1711 Stewart Place, Nashville 37203. I want to acknowledge and thank the council members. Some of you devoted more than a little bit of time to this issue. I'm sure that you're not alone, but it'll all be over eventually, and we appreciate what y'all are doing. I want to acknowledge Sandra Moore, who's been a great friend to the neighborhood, a stalwart, fine leader, excellent representative, Ms. Page, all the other sponsors of the Bill number 820. And I want to tell you what you already know. There are a lot of the council members that are going to vote against the bill. There are those that are going to vote for it. And then there are the 5 or 10 of you who are still on the fence. No one knows what your private thoughts are, and I'm not going to try to prevail on you to see it the way of the neighborhood. But I do want to identify a different sector of the council and do it this way. I think that there are some members who have gone about this issue in a way that's thoughtful, and I think that there are some members who haven't taken the time to meet with neighbors, think before they speak, listen, and not take advantage of a political issue and put it on the backs of the neighbors who are the real stakeholders. Even if you're voting no on the bill, I wish that all of you would do it in a way that's thoughtful and reflective. One of the things that I've reflected on, and I'm reflecting on it now as I'm standing here next to a stack of 8 or 10 binders full of Save My Fairgrounds petition signatures, is the disparity between one side and the other. I think there are probably 40-something thousand signatures on those petitions. I'm an optimist, so I'll round up. Let's say there are 50,000. There are 500 neighbors that have signed our petition. We've gone door to door. They've put billboards up on the interstate. We have no money. They've got who knows how many tens of thousands. And that's not a fabrication, that's the truth. The folks that are sincere in this issue, whether you vote no or yes, at the end of the day, long after all of us are gone, those are the ones whose sides are going to win. I hope you'll think about that and reflect on one other thing. I had a conversation with somebody from out of town, and they said, it sounds like a real David and Goliath story. I am so proud to be the David in this situation, and for the council persons, especially Sandra Moore, who are also the Davids in this thing. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is David Pritchard. I live at 1024 2nd Avenue South, 37210. I'm also president of the Trimble Action Group, which is the neighborhood association of Chestnut Hill, which also borders the fairgrounds. Just here for a few minutes to speak tonight about our neighborhood has strived really hard to pull itself out of some rough times, a lot of drug dealing in that area, and so have the surrounding neighborhoods and other neighborhoods in close proximity to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds property is not something that has really been conducive to promoting progress in a positive way in those neighborhoods. It's I don't want to call it a dump. I mean, it is what it is, but it is an eyesore. And I really think that we work hard to improve the quality of our lives, the quality of our families' lives, the quality of our neighbors' lives. I think you all do that in your own homes and in your own neighborhoods. And tonight, and over the next few weeks, all of you have the opportunity to help thousands of people in their neighborhoods. May not be your neighborhoods, but you know, that whole idea of not in my backyard. Put yourself in our backyard. Put yourself in our shoes. And try to say, what would I do if I wanted something positive going into the fairgrounds that could create a better quality of life for me, my family, and my neighbors. And hopefully that will influence you where you do vote to proceed with changes at the fairgrounds and doing away with some of the old problems that really are helping keep these neighborhoods down. And that's it, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Sumter Camp. I live at 5204 Tidwell Hollow Road here in Nashville, 37218. I speak in support of this bill because I support infill development in this community as opposed to greenfield development. Development where infrastructure already exists, such as at the fairgrounds with access to at least 2 interstates, as opposed to greenfield development. I know you've already heard more on this, and I'm conscious of the rule not to be repetitive, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Nancy McCune. My address is 69 Trimble Street, Nashville, Tennessee, 37210. This evening I'd like to address the economic issues here, not the hysterical issues that you've heard and will hear as the red-shirted people come in here, but the economical issues. The economics of this is simply that the red-shirted people have a lot of money because they're backed by people who do not live in our county. Now, quite frankly, harness racing was at this property before NASCAR, and harness racing fell out of favor and went away, and then NASCAR came. When the harness racing went away, that was because progress prevailed. Now, in the 80s, NASCAR left. This was a short track, and it was no longer economically feasible to continue racing at this track. Now, in all those years since, it has become less and less economically feasible to continue to race at that track. Now, that is a dilapidated eyesore. It looks like something that should be torn down, and it has created an environmental mess in a city that is attempting to be the greenest city in the Southeast. The dichotomy here doesn't even make any sense. Enter the preservation group and all the money that they've got. And where'd they get that money? Not from Davidson County. The people that want to speak to you with this don't live in our county. Their plan is headed by 2 people, 2 very, very wealthy people who want to run our county. You here on the council are elected to preserve the economics and the economic viability of the county we live in. Quite frankly, those 2 very wealthy gentlemen, they're very happy to have Nissan headquarters in their county, but they don't want us to have the same opportunity to have a viable fairgrounds area that we can make money on. I ask you tonight, vote for the people in our county, not for the people outside of this county. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Munn, 69 Trimble Street, Nashville, 37210. I'd like to speak of a financial reality check. I did a little research on my own. I went over to the fairgrounds during one of the events there, just strolled around to see what shape the fairgrounds was in. It's really appalling. I mean, there are fences that are still laying down, gutters hanging off the buildings, a lot of rust, a lot of deferred maintenance. So I made a phone call to Buck Dozier and asked him about these deferred maintenance. I said, Buck, what's the number on this to bring this up to spec so that it would pass an inspection? He said, well, you know, we really haven't put any money into it because we really haven't had it. We've got 1.2 in the reserve right now. By the end of the year, it will be 700,000. as we go on, that'll be dwindling, so we don't really have the money. I said, well, give me some numbers. What do you think? He said, well, we would need $2 to $3 million alone in air conditioning and heating alone. That's not to bring up the deferred maintenance. I said, well, gee, how do you pass any kind of, code inspection with that? So I called Bill Penn, the head of codes, and said, when's the last time you sent an inspector over there? Well, he really didn't give me a direct answer, but I said, well, could you do that and maybe get back to me and let me know that, the public's not in danger there? So, if you don't have the money to maintain the place and it's financially not feasible, why throw more money into it? Nashville deserves better. We do, we really do. And I would love to see something, because it's really hard to tell people that when you bring them by what that is. They look at it and they say, what is that? And you say, well, it's not something that we love, but it's something that's been here a long time, and that's not a reason to put more money into it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dick Kotler. I live at 2211 Hobbs Road, zip code 37215. The opposition has linked the racetrack with the fairgrounds so that it appears that it's one issue. This is popular with the racing advocates because their arguments on a standalone basis, frankly, are pretty weak. This is also popular with the fairgrounds advocates because they believe if the racetrack is saved, the fairgrounds property can never be developed, or it can't be developed at least in the foreseeable future. But the fact is, these are two completely separate issues, and they need to be treated that way. Nashville does not need a racetrack in its downtown area. It disrupts the city's growth and is grossly unfair to the people who live in the area because of the noise during both practices and races. It's so bad that people and stores are unwilling to move in and revitalize what could become a very affordable area in a great location. Remove the racetrack, the noise goes away, the area becomes desirable and becomes revitalized. Additionally, if the racetrack stays, the likelihood of it succeeding is very questionable. The peak in racing is behind us. It's on a downward trend. Tracks are suffering financially. Race car drivers are losing sponsorships. And the plan presented by those who want to save the racetrack isn't really a plan. There are no details, there are no proposed financial arrangements or fully committed investors. There are no financial projections. It's a dream rather than a plan, and dreams don't often come true. So save the fairgrounds if you choose. The bill you're voting on tonight allows for that outcome, but do the right thing tonight for the people who live in the area, in the racetrack, and stop tormenting this neighborhood. You would never tolerate it in your neighborhood, and I dare say there are a lot of people who are in red tonight who would not tolerate it in their neighborhood either. Please vote for this bill. Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Jen Trail. I live at 419 Moore Avenue, 37203. Thank you very much for hearing us tonight. I live 2 blocks north of the State Fairgrounds property in Wedgwood, Houston. For a little over a year now, I've been working on a project called South Nashville Life, where I blog daily on what it means to live, work, and play in the areas just south of downtown. I started this project because I saw a need for discussion among South Nashville residents about the elements in our area that create a sense of civic pride, or the lack thereof. One element of our community that I've been working to raise awareness about is the sad state of Browns Creek. My love affair with Browns Creek began when I participated in a cleanup of the creek last year, where it runs through the fairgrounds with SNAP, or the South Nashville Action People. The first time I saw the creek, I had mixed feelings. I was thrilled to discover such a significant body of water in the backyard of my urban neighborhood, but perplexed by the cement walls that line whole sections of the creek through the fairgrounds. And I was angry that it had been so altered by mankind and then fallen victim to decades of neglect.
While it's really great that there's been talk of restoring the creek to a more natural state, ridding it of toxins and invasive infrastructure, it's beyond me how this could be done effectively while the southernmost wall of the racetrack practically sits on top of part of the creek. It is also doubtful to me that dozens of race cars can pass over that south wall hundreds of times in a single race and not contribute to the pollution of the creek. Restoring Browns Creek means restoring South Nashville's pride in a long-forgotten piece of our community, something that we can enjoy as part of a new 40-acre park. But it would be difficult for the creek to become a source of our civic pride if the fear remained that it would just become polluted and forgotten again due to being located next to and under the repeated circling of high-powered engines. I believe that Nashville wants to and can do better for its streams. Auto racing must go in order for Browns Creek to thrive. Browns Creek deserves it. After all, the creek was there first. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Vice Mayor, thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you all tonight, to voice our opinions. It's nice to know that the neighbors are being heard as well as listened to. I live at 553 Moore Avenue. My name is Bo Daniel. I've lived in the area for just almost a year now, so I'm not going to pretend that I've been around over there like some of the other residents who may or may not support this bill to demolish the racetrack. However, I can say that in the past 6 months, since we have conducted a community-based grassroots effort to go around door to door speaking with each and every member who is at home and putting the bill that is being debated before them. Nothing to do with the fairgrounds, nothing to do with the flea market, purely the racetrack. And we did gain majority of the people who we were able to speak with supported this bill. And our survey is evidence of that. I support the flea market. I love the flea market. If we could find a way for some things to coexist, I think that's the best thing for Nashville. It maintains some tradition, which I know a lot of people are strong about. My family has a lot of traditions, many that I would not like to see go away. However, if traditions get in the way of progress, I believe they then become problems that can be solved by listening to the neighbors, by having a city council that will hear us and take into account what we are in favor of. Which brings us into the value that is created by removing the racetrack, maintaining the flea market, the fairgrounds, both of which have, I think the city paper quoted $350 a square foot in revenues that were generated this past week through both of those operations. The racetrack, I think, contributes 6 cents a square foot. Numbers generally don't lie, and I just want to end this with saying thank you and best of luck. Thank you for your patience.
Madam Vice Mayor, I am the last speaker for Neighbors for Progress, District 17. Thank you. My name is Frederick Agee, 557 Moore Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee, 37203. First, I'd like to thank Council Lady Berry, Representative / Councilman Gatto for having a proper public hearing. We gave proper notice tonight, gave all the residents of Nashville the opportunity to come and speak. And I thank you for allowing our voices to be heard. The one thing constant in life is change. You can either try to resist change or you can embrace change. But the one thing that's constant is change. It's going to happen. Nashville's growing. We're thriving. We're not making any more land for people to live on. This is a sad night because you obviously have a lot of people here that are emotionally attached to this property. Some of them may live here. Some of them may live in the surrounding counties. Everyone that spoke for us tonight lives in Nashville and Davidson County. You're going to hear these emotional pleas You're going to hear about this 11th hour plan to save the fairgrounds. It's mainly been conceived by racing enthusiasts from Wilson, Murray, Rutherford counties. Don't let these emotional pleas and don't let this plan muddy your thought process on what you want the future of Nashville to look like. If you keep this racetrack here and it continues to be a detriment to our neighborhood and our quality of life, please send the director of MDHA out to buy my house. Please do it. Lastly, I'd like to thank our council lady, Sandra Moore. You guys are just getting a little dose of what Sandra's gone through the last 4 years at public hearings, fair board meetings. Thanks for standing up for your constituents, Sandra. I appreciate it, and the other neighbors appreciate it as well. Thank you all for listening to my comments, and I hope you all can stay up till 12, 1 o'clock tonight. Have a good evening. Thank you.
I'd like to give, if there is not a seat for you in the chamber, please go out to the mezzanine. When we begin this next portion, we're going to try to do it by rows. We're going to start with the back row of the chamber. If you are in the back row of the chamber and you wish to speak, please come forward and line up at the lectern. If you are in the next to the back row of the chamber and wish to speak, please come to the lectern. If you are in the third row from the back and wish to speak, please come to the lectern.
Excuse me just a moment. We've lined up a group outside to go first. It lives in that neighborhood. If that would be okay with the vice
I was
mayor.
asked by security to try to do it by rows. Could we do the chamber first and then go to the outside? Please come to the lectern and state your name, address, and zip code.
My name is Jackie Darrell Palmore. I live at 458 Jeanette Avenue, Gouldsville, Tennessee. Mr. Ryman, 37072. And I 100% support this fairgrounds. You've had these people get up here and talk about the economical and the environmental impact of this racetrack. These are the people who don't mind charging $5 a car to park for the flea market. You've heard several of these people get up and say how they want to lose the racetrack but keep the flea market. And that's so they can continue to charge $5 a car, let oil, transmission fluid, antifreeze, and gas seep into their lawns, and then not tell the Metro or the tax officials about the money they collected for those cars. That's why they want to keep the flea market and not the racetrack.
Tommy Clymer from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 37127. These people keep talking about how they cannot talk in their backyards, how they can't do this. We have no, we're at the racetrack, in the center of the racetrack. We have no problems talking on the telephone. It's like a family, we're family. And they talk about how everybody it's against the racetrack is from their area. Hey, if everybody stays in Rutherford County and everywhere else in other counties, Nashville's just going to have them. But a lot of historic, I mean, they say it's a racers thing. Yeah, it is. We're trying to save our racetrack because we love it. Just like they, just give these guys a chance that's got this plan, and, maybe we can get this thing worked together. And, and Carl Dean, You know, he was out at the racetrack. He used us. He did. He used us to get elected. He come out, shook our hands, kissed the babies.
If you would like to speak to the issue, that is fine, but we are not going to speak about individuals or personalities tonight.
Thank you.
I'm Clay Alexander. I'm from Franklin, 3214 Kennard Springs Road, 37064. I'm 20 years old. I'm third generation race car driver. My grandfather started owning cars in the 60s. My dad is Mike Alexander, two-time track champion. He's close to the top of the win list. Last year I was very successful there, winning 3 of the 5 races held there. This is a great place. I grew up here. I love it. I heard a lot about you're killing the city. Well, this is my home too. I love this place, and if you take this away, then it's not only hurting them with noise, but it's hurting me because you're taking something that is very valuable away from me. We race all over the Southeast, and people talk to us all the time about what is to come of the Fairgrounds Speedway because they also care. This is a historical monument and a great place for young drivers to develop their skills, to go on to their careers. I'm not doing this for a hobby. This is my career. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and this is a great place to get started. My dad started here, Sterling started here, Daryl started here. Many of the people that have gone on to do great things have started here, and I hope I'm on that right track. People say that it's a burden to their eyes. Well, I have heard stories from my dad and my grandfather, and they don't know the half of it. This is not just a piece of asphalt. This is a piece of history and a piece of my life, and I do not want to see it go away. I hope y'all will make a decision to benefit Nashville and make this a great place for a racetrack and give the people that have stepped up to renovate this place a chance. Let us try and make a change, and the racetrack has to be there for us to try again. So thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Sophia Ladd. I'm a 7th grader at Apollo Middle School, home of the Mighty Astros, where pride, dignity, and excellence pave the road to success. This is not only my school motto, but also my life motto. By tearing down the historical Nashville Fairgrounds, you will not only be depriving me of many successes, you will be tearing down the dreams of every young race car driver that dreams of this also. My grandmother remembers traveling with her grandfather by horse and buggy on this route in front of the fairgrounds to sell brooms just to make a living. My father remembers being dropped off on Saturday morning by his grandmother to ride the rides, play the games, and at the fair park, and finding himself a good seat to watch his uncle's race that night. That is, if he made good grades the week prior. I may only be 12 years old, but my memory started in the womb of my mother. That is when she could find a good seat to watch my father and uncle race on Saturday nights. And by what my mother tells me, I was startled at the first start your engines, but at the time I was an infant, I was calmed by the sounds of those cars. 106 years of community enjoyment, 106 years of pride, passion, and 106 years of the next family tradition will be destroyed by one mayor. Can you live with yourself, or will you consider the people of Nashville who've made the Tennessee Speedway a way of life? This great piece of land might only mean dollars to you, sir, but to me, my family, and the citizens of this community, it means a rich history of man's passions to complete, to find meaning for tradition, for showmanship, and to pass on what makes their heart race. Mayor, please do not take this away from me and my Fairground family. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Daniel Bolden. I live at 6580 Burkett Road in Davidson County, Tennessee, 37013. First, I'd like to thank the council for hearing the public tonight. I'm a second-generation race car driver. I come after my dad, Ricky Bolden. I have a 17-year-old brother who also races down there. It's kind of been our family history to be down there, and we just love it so much. But we also travel the Southeast and race. We go to Montgomery, Alabama. We spend lots of money in their cities trying to race. When people come down here, they spend the same money. They have to go to the hotel rooms. They eat out. They spend the money at our gas stations. Please give us a chance to keep this track. I think we can do something with it. Coming from a young man like myself, I'm a business and marketing major in Motlow State. I do a lot of my sponsorship stuff and work with some other companies.
and privileged to do that, and it's hard to bring the sponsorship when you just don't have a definite on whether or not you're going to race. I've heard a few people that have said that we're amateurs and that we're kind of NASCAR wannabes. I'd agree with that. I do want to be in NASCAR one day. I think that this is a great place to hone my skills, and I think there's a lot of amateur golfers and baseball players that play in the parks and golf courses around the city, and they get the opportunity to do that, and I think we should too. Thank you for taking your time out to hear us tonight.
I'm Ricky Bolden, 6580 Burkett, 37013. I guess I'm the first generation driver he talked about. That was my son Daniel. I have a 17-year-old participates. Proud of both these boys. They stay out of trouble. They love the racing. They try real hard at what they do. And it's not only just them, it's a lot of other young people that's going to come up here and talk about this is their dream to race. This is where they want to come participate. This is the premier track of the Southeast or probably United States. If you do away with it, you'll never have it again. We never have a second chance at this. And I think that keeps getting overlooked a whole lot. It doesn't just belong to the neighborhood right there. It belongs to all of us. It's the Tennessee State Fairgrounds. I pay my taxes just like they do, and it's all of us involved in this thing. We all want to make it better, but we can't fight one another doing it. We need some support behind this. We have good people that wants to help out, and if you'll give them a chance, it'll work out. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Davey Coble, 1104 North Graycroft, 37115, Davidson County. And I don't know really where to start with this because there's so many of us young people that are trying to make a dream of racing NASCAR one day, and we need a place to do it. And this is the best place in the country to do it. We just got back from Pensacola, Florida, and so many people come up to us and want to know, how's the racetrack? Can we come up there and race? Y'all are the best. I mean, we had cars come from Wisconsin to race this last race. Everybody wants to come to Nashville because it is the best racetrack in America as far as local series goes. If we close it down, what are we all going to do? I'm going to school at Ball State to be an engineer so I can work on race cars. That's our dream. That's our passion. We stay out of trouble all the time and do what we need to do so we can make it and race on Saturday night. And I hate to see a place as good as this place go, because it's going to put us back on the streets and we're not going to have nothing to do. It's going to be boring for us. I wish y'all would leave it alone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Hagewood, Springfield, Tennessee, 37172. Former resident of Nashville since 1970 until I retired 3 years ago and moved to Springfield, Tennessee. I'm going to make this brief. I've read the newspaper, watched the TV about he said, she said. The only thing that comes to mind is it seems like that the fairgrounds is set out on its own. If it had the opportunity of being embraced like the Predators, the Titans, the Metro golf courses, the Metro parks, they're all subsidized each year. And if the convention center, convention bureau embraced this here and put money into the fairgrounds, it wouldn't be in the state that it's in right now. And I just feel like that the fairgrounds is just like it's out in the ocean by itself. It's getting no help from the council or anybody that wants to infuse money, but we can build parks, subsidize whatever needs to be subsidized, and we all know that we subsidize the parks and the golf courses and the Predators. I mean, that's well known, but I'm not trying to beat the horse to death, but the thing about it is, I just feel like it needs some consideration and it needs some influence of money too, because it's a heritage for people who like racing and people who live here. I mean, it's part of our heritage too. We don't have a heritage of hockey. We don't have a heritage of football. But nobody is out here saying that we don't need it. The only one saying we don't need it is people that don't want the racetrack or the flea market. That's people's livelihood, and people, they like it, and that's what they like to have. Thank you.
I would ask that the people in the 4th row or the 5th row from the back go ahead and line up, please, at the lectern, if you wish to speak.
My name is Larry Cunningham. I live in Old Hickory, 37138. Just like Larry was talking about before that, you know, if the state would help, you know, I know the track looks like an eyesore around there. Things hadn't been done in years, but you know that's not the racer's fault. You know, it's like renting a house. If you rent it to your tenant and it needs a roof, you got to spend money to put a roof on it. Metro needs to spend money to make the place look better. You know, put the walls up. You can't expect to, you know, you don't rent a house to a person and tell them to build a swimming pool in your backyard. You know, you spend money yourself because it's yours. You know, the government needs to do that. Metro needs to do that. It's going to cost millions of dollars to tear that place up and dig all that up. You know, the people say about the noise. Well, they're going to get Coca-Cola to close down next because their trucks run up and down that same road and make noise. I'd say Metro school buses put out, or Metro city buses put out just as much pollution, if 10 times as much in a week period as a race car does. But, you know, and like I say, the people that live in this neighborhood, I hear several of them that's been there 2 years, you know, they say this, he said, you know, some of them's moved in there, been there 2 or 3 years. Maybe they didn't think that the track was going to last. Maybe they didn't do an investigation. Well, I understand that. But, you know, why should we suffer because other people didn't do their homework? You know, if they would work with the government and get the Metro to work with the track to make not only the racetrack but around the flea market and everything better, then it all worked, you know, put our heads together, it'd work. You know, we got to compromise a little bit, they got to compromise. That's all I want to say.
Hi, thank for y'all hearing us out. Sterling Marlin, 844 Mahon Road, Columbia, Tennessee. Went out yesterday and walked the neighborhood.
Could you please give your zip code?
Oh, 38401.
Thank you.
We went yesterday and walked the neighborhood, took like a straw poll, went to houses, knocked on doors. 8 people before the racetrack, old, young, 3 people were against. And the biggest thing I'm hearing from the yellow shirts is noise. And we can fix the noise. You're going to have administration here spend $20 to $25 million to tear down this racetrack when a $50 muffler will fix everything. Keep hearing about the creek. I personally went in the creek a month ago, took water samples from where the water flows in, past the racetrack to Nobles Road, on where the Browns Creek dumps in the Cumberland River. The water samples were the same. So the pollution is not coming from the racetrack. We've got oil dumping stations at the racetrack. We've got trash cans. We do not make a mess. Mayor Dean said that the track was unsuccessful. We averaged 6,500 people a race this year. 9,500, 10,000 people for the last race. I don't call it unsuccessful. You take the Metro golf courses, last year's in the paper, they had 7, they lost $1.7 million. Where'd that money come from? The Metro taxpayers. Got a grandson here. I know he'd like to have an opportunity to race here one day. I raced here, my dad raced here. What's these kids gonna do if they tear this racetrack down? We gotta go to Montgomery, Alabama, Radford, Virginia. You got hundreds of kids in this area, Middle Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, North Carolina. Dale Earnhardt sent his kids here to race because this was the best short track in the country. You had 38 Daytona 500 winners race or win here. There's been more professional race car drivers come through this racetrack than any other track in the United States combined. The mayor talks about history and tradition. This track is 106 years old. He was talking about moving sounds to Sulphurdale, history and tradition. So if the sounds move, well, that's going to leave 30 or 40 acres there that you can put a park, you can put a business complex. This track's in a floodplain. These people, real estate people, talking about putting building stuff down here where the track is. It's going to flood. I've seen it 1 million times. Councilman Jernigan, he had a bill that passed unanimously that you cannot build in the floodplain. So I guess I don't know what's going to happen here, how that's going to work out. You got a natural music venue, have all kind of concerts, make money like they used to do. I don't know why it don't happen. I guess you got to get a permit or something. But thank you all for your time, and hope you make the right choice. Thank you.
Nicholas Formosa, 116 Springbrook Place, Jolton, Tennessee, 37080. I'd like to thank y'all for hearing my side of the story. Third generation race car driver. grandson to a race winner, son to a champion, nephew to a man that has a great plan in place to make this racetrack a better place for both parties, to do something about the noise, for both sides to have an equal opportunity to both be happy. I don't want to talk much about the history because everybody knows about the history. I want to talk about the future and what it could hold for people like me, 25 years old, to have an opportunity to move up to the next level, to make money in a career in racing, and that racetrack is a perfect opportunity for someone like me. I have people that back me, sponsor me, local businesses that give me money to go out there and pursue my dream. And one day, I'd like to have a family of my own and bring them there to that racetrack. And if they don't race, to watch the racing and grew up how I did on a Saturday night, sitting starry-eyed, watching the man that just spoke before me, watching him race, my father, my uncle, and not being on the streets on a Saturday night. And I'm proud to say I'm 25 years old. I own my own home. And I'm not a hoodlum running the streets on Saturday nights. And I'd just like y'all to take that in consideration. Thank you.
Howdy, my name's Jerry Coble. I live at 1104 North Graycroft, 37115, and Mr. Ryman's my councilman. I'd like to tell you that I know they said it was $25,000 worth of income that racetrack generated this year. Well, that's not actually the correct numbers. That racetrack was leased for 20 days. That's all it was leased for. He didn't have the lease for all the months he was there. He had it leased from Thursday to Saturday, or Thursday to Sunday on them dates. So that's 20 days that he was there. Okay, the fair board had opportunities to put other events or schedule other events there, and they chose not to. The reason this racetrack has been going downhill, if you pull the financial records from the fair board and look, everyone that had a lease that was over 5 years, the racetrack was successful. Everyone that's had one less, it's not successful. You've got to give a person, if you gave the Titans a 1-year lease on a stadium down there, or the Predators, they wouldn't be successful neither. You have to put money in this place, and you have to give a man a long-term lease so he can develop it. If he wants to spend $1 million developing it, he's got to have a long enough lease that he can recover his money. I am a businessman. I have a business, a small business in Nashville. I pay sales tax. Please, I do not want to see my taxes, dollars, tear this racetrack up and build a business park or whatever there when I can ride down Broad Street, Church Street, or just about any street in Nashville and see for lease on buildings, properties for lease. Business office spaces is not being used already, and we're wanting to build more. That does not make any sense to me, and like I said, I'm a taxpayer and a registered voter, and I would like to see y'all save the racetrack and the flea market and all the facilities there, and let's spruce it up. It can be a big opportunity to generate a lot of money. We went to Pensacola, Florida back in November, towed down there, and spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000. I was down there for 10 days racing. There was 179 teams down there from, I think it was 14 different states. We have that here. Why are we throwing it away? Thank you. Hope you vote for the racetrack. Thank you.
Afternoon. I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you. I know it's gotten long here, but my name is Jerry Criswell. I live at 3379 Warsham Springs Road in Greenbrier, Tennessee, 37073. I grew up in Nashville. I own property in Nashville that I pay taxes on. I feel like I have I'd like to ask you to keep this racetrack. I started going to this racetrack in the 70s. It was a family tradition, like many have said. I have a unique position here in this country nowadays. Our manufacturing jobs are going across seas. Everywhere. Mexico. Everywhere you want to look, they're going. Disappearing. Empty buildings sitting everywhere. I just so happen to be a small business owner. We have a manufacturing business, and we manufacture stock car bodies and components. We sell them all across the country. We deal with racetracks, administrations all across the country that operate racetracks. This track right here has more promise and is more grand than any track in the country. There's none out there that do not want to come and race at this facility. The facility is in a bad need of repair, but I mean, I blame that on them for not keeping it up. I mean, just to see a coat of paint would be great. Now, I do feel like that Mr. Formosa has done a great job for the amount of time he had to deal with it. Know for a fact that we didn't even know until just a few weeks before the opening date that we was even going to have a facility to race at. It's impossible for a team to get a car together, get their sponsors together, committed to come and support that. And I feel like he had tremendous support, and he did a great job of promoting it. If this track closes, it's going to be detrimental to my business. Me and my wife, we employ 20 people. And we are in Greenbrier, Tennessee, but that'll just be more manufacturing jobs lost for one reason or another from this area. And I don't have a high education, but I knew enough to get in business and try it. I'm not sure if that was smart or not, but I just ask you to please listen to us. I'd be more than happy to, like I say, I've dealt with racetracks all across the country. It's my business every day. And I'd offer my time free of charge to the council to be a part, to help guide and direct it. If there's any way I could be of any service to you, I just ask you to ask. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak. My name is Lisa York, and I live at 2100 Grantland Avenue, 37204, District 17. I support and I've lived there for over 12 years. I support keeping the fairgrounds intact, adding landscaping and a park with a dog section. The newly, seemingly, discovered Browns Creek is its own entity, and as a waterway, it needs to be cleaned up despite any decisions that are made. That's its own. I'm really here, obviously I've changed my mind sitting outside. I'm really here to ask some questions because this is just a very convoluted and interesting proposal that we're facing right now. Why is this administration proposing to sell this desirable parcel of land? If it's truly to create jobs and stimulate the economy, as you've heard from many, there are hundreds and hundreds of empty lots and holes in the ground in Nashville, about Nashville. Especially like the 5-year-old hole right around the corner on 8th Avenue, where the ever popular and truly missed Melrose Bowling was. And then today I noticed right around a quarter of a mile on Nolensville, a quarter of a mile from the fairgrounds on Nolensville Road, a huge strip mall that has been sitting vacant. We just have lots and lots of places in town that need to be stimulated and rejuvenated. What is this property worth? Obviously, it's a desirable parcel of land, and there are those that would love to have it. If sold, who will see that money? If signed over to a developer, how will the city and the citizens benefit from that? The racing community has presented a really lovely plan, including a park, greenways, and sound barriers. We've yet to see any proposal from the city or what the projected cost will be, because it kind of feels like you want to get a new home and you decide to knock the house down, but you don't have a plan, or you don't know how much it's going to cost. So you're going to live in your rubble until you figure it all out. And this is kind of, I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse, and it's extremely short-sighted. And it just seems unprecedented and short-sighted. There's so much potential with this property. Having worked at the Baltimore Convention and Visitors Association, I've seen how this type of property can flourish if properly managed. As you've heard from others too, you could do monthly ethnic and cultural festivals, the roller derby, the flea market, outdoor concerts like Vanderbilt, nonprofit events, children